the name Adhering Mills was mentioned, all that I said is, I cannot disappoint Prof this time. And he understands me wherever he is as an ancestor. In the year 2000, when he was struggling to be president, was vice president, he didn't pay a courtesy call on me and was used as part of a campaign against him in my area. Oh, Prof, I think it was just a slip. Because when they don't come, you really have your peace of mind. So I was sitting at home one day in Cape Coast, where my farm is. And then some nice NDC boys that I knew came to see me. It was the second round. Oh, Nana, Prof did not see you the first time. So we think that we have to create room for him to. I said, when do you want him to come and pay a courtesy call? This was about 4 p.m. So the following morning, I said, how? I said, okay, we'll organize the elders and so on around. They came to Iskado. They had about 150 to 200 people, elders waiting for them from various villages. Brilliant speech, brilliant speech, brilliant speech. Now this is the nicest part, talking about Prof's sense of humor. When Prof left, I was talking to the elders and I said, what do you think of this man? And one of them said, papa. You know, to refer to a human being as a human being has its meanings. Then I asked the next question, so are you going to vote for him? This was the second round. So the Nanchaban what way we one bantam. I just laughed. You know, from then on, we hardly ever met, once a while and so on. Then he invited me for a position. I came to Accra, being called to the castle, coming from where I come from, the cultural state that I come from. If I invited to the castle, I don't know whether you're going to be in prison or something of the sort. So I carried a retinue with me. And in that interaction, Prof did something that most of the people in the room did not understand, but I understood. I don't want to go into details, but that's when I knew that Pepe, he knows where he comes from. He knows where he comes from. He knows the roots. That brief interaction, about 5-10 minutes, he earned my unique respect. Of course, he put me on a commission that I didn't know much about, but later on realized that I wish he hadn't. I won't tell you the name of the commission, but any time that I was going to sit in a trotro and come to Accra to attend a meeting, I'll be singing Saba's song, in serving my country, the land of my birth, within her borders. I don't have need for reward, and I'll come and go back. So that was Saba, but Prof instilled that Saba spirit in me. Of course, I don't think there's been much maligned person in this country as much as Prof. But in all those things, you could see some consistencies about him. He had his own mind. He had his own mind. Our good friend, our big brother Jerry would do this. Prof knew, and he stood by his words. Remarkable. This was a man who was forthright about things. And I remember that when there was the stories about many cats, killing many cats, many ways of killing cats. Prof came and stood by the Constitution, stood by the sanctity of appointments. Because everything that he made up his mind to do, it wasn't about him, it wasn't about today, it was about the future. And I really did admire that. Every step, every word that he said, there were many ways of killing a cat, but was it necessary to kill the cat? No, the Constitution mattered. The future mattered. Standing by your word mattered. So that was Prof for him. I used to think that he came from Takwa. because his little sister used to keep things in the house, in our house, and then go to Takwa for holidays. So all the time that I thought the Arthur Millses were from Takwa, then later on they moved to Commander and so on. But why I'm bringing these things in, that getting to know people, you have to know them by the roots. Character always matters. It's something we forget in the hubris of politics. A person's character shines. And what we saw, Prof, within that office, both as a vice president and as president, was a man of character. And a state is always, from me, a chief, a state is a moral being. Once you lose the moral authority, you've lost the state. You've lost the capacity to rule. And Prof always had that morality about him, in his behavior, in his discussions. Even the humor you hear right now, you were laughing. That was him. And the way he spoke to customs, you see the sincerity of the person that this is me, and I'm going to change me today or tomorrow, and so on. I could go on and on about Prof. I remember talking to one of his friends during one of his campaign. And I said, he's not making any promises. And he says, no, he won't make a promise. We've advised him not to promise, because he's somebody that if he promises, he will die to keep the promise. Then one day, I heard Prof say that we are going to cut the petrol, is it petrol? Yeah, petroleum prices drastically. And I called my friend. I said, the man has made a promise. Of course, he came and cut it down, but not drastically, but at least he kept the promise. The most important thing here was that the Prof was a sportsman. I would always remember him for this. But in this particular era that we are in building the future of this country, in building the future of Africa, you always need people of principle. And in keeping this thing going, Prof Smith, 10 years on, is remembering him that without principles, a state does not really exist. As we say, Chamia Okahan, not a man wegu a chief, a linguist who speaks with folk tongues is the death of the state. If Prof says A, it was A, and he kept to the A. And these are the things we need to encourage. Today, tomorrow, the day after, for those to come after us. On the committee that I was appointed into, let me say, I didn't know of anybody who was NDC. I only knew somebody who was NPP, interestingly, because he had served in an NPP finance office. But the rest of the people, everybody he appointed them because I presume that they took me because of merit. So we were all there and we're discussing Ghana's future, and that is what matters. And this always takes me back to chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is usually neglected. And for those of you who are mathematicians, my people, Your Excellencies, forgive me, I should have introduced the queens and the chiefs. Otherwise, they won't let me sleep tonight. But the most important thing there is that in that chapter is a chapter of inclusiveness. And I challenge most of you here, go and look at the people Professor Mills appointed into various places all over the country. Find out how many of them were from Prof's ethnic group. And you'll be surprised by the percentage. It's something that always amazes. This is a ship of state, and it floats or kept aloft with everybody being on board. I remember seeing Senior Mate once, and he was talking about the workload. I'm sure he has forgotten, but I understood the workload because Prof had decided to cut down costs by every means necessary. And they were not sleeping. I'm very much aware of his God-centeredness and trying to reveal the act, the power of God, or the act of God, or the beauty of God through the work he did. And that came out in his simplicity. Now, the last thing that I'll say before I go and sit down, I was with one of Prof's cousins, and he just came to me with a shock. He might be in this room. Why? Some people went to see Prof, offering him, you know, what a lot of African states suffer from, offering him some inducements for some work. The work had already been approved. Then the people asked Prof, what would you like us to give to you? Said Prof said, like what? Oh, we could put a house, factor a house, a couple of houses in there or something. Said Prof looked up and told them, I have 2 houses in Accra. I don't even know which one to live in. And you want to give me a house, please forget it. And these guys were surprised. That was the integrity. We laughed about it, but at the same time too, we felt sad for those who chased material things. Prof had character and dignity above everything, and to him, Ghana mattered. And because of that, I cut across so many rivers, across the River Pra, in spite of the sadness about what happened in Apiati. And when you come to Accra, it's a headache. Got into traffic, so wasting my life sitting in a car. But I said, for this one, I won't disappoint Prof. So I'm not here because of you here. I'm here because whoever Prof is, he's seeing me. And I hope he encourages me to follow his footsteps.